Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Spectator Sports. NBA free agency has started, and with it being 4th of July, let's take advantage with another podcast. So before we get into breaking down the early deals in this initial wave of free agency, please do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Take a look at our Instagram and TikTok pages. Content from the pods are going to be on there as well in shorter clips. And then for the audio, you can get that on Spotify. Like I said, all links are in the description. James Harden demands a trade out of Philadelphia. And within the last 2 seasons with Philly, it's been an interesting ordeal. After being traded from the Brooklyn Nets for Ben Simmons, initially it was looking like a good move. But yet again, these last 2 postseasons have proven that the Sixers still can't get to the Eastern Conference Finals with or without James Harden. They're stuck in the second round. And now they're in a precarious situation because James Harden's value has been probably the lowest it's ever been since his OKC days. Now, he is continuing to be a depreciating asset because he is not committed to the defensive end. He shows the training camp out of shape and just continues to be kind of about this party lifestyle, but not focus on the intangibles that it takes to be a great NBA player. Now, certainly, there are going to be teams that would like his services. Miami is one of them. The Clippers are another team in play here. But still, it seems that the Sixers are going to be in trouble because they're not going to get a ton back unless they get a third team involved. And right now, the LA Clippers are certainly the leading contenders for Harden's services. The Clippers just brought back Russell Westbrook on Saturday, and it definitely brings a small monkey wrench into this deal. But I think that with Russell Westbrook leading the second unit, you can still have James Harden being the starting point guard and orchestrating things in the first few minutes of the game. And you can even have them play at the same time. We saw that in their OKC days. It would be kind of cool to see them reunited in LA, but nonetheless, what can Philly get back? Of course, the biggest thing in this potential trade for the Clippers could be that they trade away Terrence Mann. Now, I like that he's a young player, but he seems to be more of a combo guard. He can do things on the defensive end. I don't know if that necessarily moves the needle. You need more for that in terms of trading for James Harden. So there's going to be maybe a third team getting involved because right now the Sixers are just going to be coming up short. They're going to get salaries and whatnot, but in terms of maybe banking in on Tyrese Maxey's elevation from a 3 to a 2, and then maybe whoever they get in return for James Harden, that's just a lot to bank in, and that could be the final season we see Joel Embiid in Philadelphia, because next season is pretty much do or die, and I'm highly worried for the Sixers that if things go awry or they don't have anything to move themselves forward, especially in the Eastern Conference, Joel Embiid's probably going to see the writing on the wall and demand a trade out of Philadelphia. A few days after we saw James Harden make his trade request, we saw Damian Lillard make a trade request. After being kind of quiet but still somewhat cryptic, especially with his tweets and IG stories citing Miami, definitely his preferred destination is pretty obvious. He's officially made his trade request public to the Blazers brass, and I know that they just drafted Scoot Henderson, and that's clearly showing that they want to rebuild, and they owe Damian Lillard at least to find him a potential suitor that's going to make a deep run like the Miami Heat. But I think that's just because Miami can give him the best package. They have Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, they can give a few picks, they can even give up Nikola Jovic. That was a late first round pick last season. I do like what they have compared to what Philly could offer them, because that's probably Miami's biggest competition in this Damian Lillard sweepstakes is Philadelphia. They can throw in Tyrese Maxey. I think that's maybe the more attractive offer, but I don't know who else they can pair together. The fit goes equally either way, but I think in terms of deeper postseason run, it's definitely the Miami Heat. I mean, they made the NBA Finals with this team as is, and yeah, they lost some players. They lost Max Strus, they lost Gabe Vincent, but they still have that core group of guys. I like Bam Adebayo, I like Jimmy Butler, I like Heat culture, anything to do with Eric Spoelstra, you're going to have a very good, hard coach team. So Dame, I think, and Heat culture go hand in hand together. I think that's just inevitable at this moment, but just keep an eye out for Philly and maybe even the Los Angeles Clippers if they lose out on this James Harden sweepstakes as well. It's clear the early winners of free agency have been the Los Angeles Lakers. After making a run to the Western Conference Finals, we heard numerous rumors about Kyrie Irving, Chris Paul, for example, being that guy to take over the point guard position in place of D'Angelo Russell. But instead, what Rob Pelinka has done is simply just continue to retool the roster. After that initial retooling of trading away Russell Westbrook at the deadline, getting back Jared Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell, for example, those guys have been great for the Lakers. And then now what he's done is bring in Gabe Vincent, who was really good for Miami, especially in the postseason run, arguably a top 3 or 4 contributor to that Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat. You got to see them bring in Taurean Prince, and then they re-signed a great deal of players like Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, but also signed guys like Jackson Hayes and Cam Reddish. And to talk about all these signings, let's talk about the re-signings first. D'Angelo Russell, I think he is a very good point guard. He just makes some poor decisions and not the best defender, but I will always be a fan of D'Angelo Russell. I think he deserved a second shot with the Lakers, and I'm glad they brought him back. I think he brings in continuity, and then you have Austin Reeves, who is a solid combo guard. He can create his own shot, do a little bit of dishing, and is just a capable three-point shooter as well. I think he's only going to get better, especially under the tutelage of Darvin Ham and even LeBron coaching him on the court. And then you have Rui Hachimura, who's been a great bright spot story for the Lakers after being traded from the Washington Wizards. I think he brings a lot of versatility. He can guard a lot of positions, wing and inside, just due to his size. Great wingspan, great rebounder, and with his spacing capability of being a decent catch-and-shoot shooter, I think that's just another dimension that the Lakers really needed. Talk about Cam Reddish. He's been bouncing around the league, and he has this Duke alumni. He has this Duke background to bank in on, but he hasn't really found a home. I think hopefully they can tap into the best of his potential, because that's always what everyone's been talking about Cam Reddish, is that he has great potential, but he hasn't really hit that. I love Taurean Prince. He is a classic 3-and-D wing guy. He can make a good amount of shots. He's been a career 37% three-point shooter and great at spot-ups. He's been a 41% spot-up shooter. Long wingspan, almost 7 feet, and with his 6'8" frame, that's great amount of size to guard guys on the perimeter. Not the most agile guy, but still very capable contributor to a championship level team. And then Jackson Hayes is a solid backup big. He's been taking a lot of backseats to Zion Williamson, but when Zion is out, he gets to play those big center minutes after even Steven Adams and Jonas Valanciunas. So I think that right there is quality signing so far. I would like to see him add some shooting just to help out with getting some more spacing concerns, but they can find that later, absolutely. But right now, Rob Pelinka is cooking in free agency, and I do still have them behind the Denver Nuggets and Phoenix Suns, but they are definitely going to be challengers to those teams in the Western Conference playoffs. Almost immediately after free agency started, we got the news that Draymond Green is coming back to Golden State, and this basically means that he's going to be a Warrior for life. I think maybe he has another year or two after this contract, but he's certainly getting older, slowing down, but still very, very good defender, and is kind of the engine, or at least the emotional leader of the team. He just provides that pride, that grit that the Golden State Warriors need from being more of a finesse team. I just think the fit made sense. He could go to Sacramento, he could go to Detroit, or any other team that was willing to give him a bag of money. But what would that prove? I just don't think he really fits outside the Golden State system, or wouldn't be as effective. Individually on ball defending, he would be fantastic like he usually is, but in terms of a true offensive contribution, I just don't think that's been his ordeal. I've only seen it in limited stints when he plays for Team USA. Not the best when he's playing outside of that Golden State system, because it's greatly different when you're playing for Team USA, but that's the only comparison I can see him. Great signing for Golden State. I think this only made sense for them, and we'll see what happens. They still have a lot of moves to make. Certainly gonna have to make some more moves to contend with a very tough Western Conference coming up this year. Kyrie Irving is returning to the Dallas Mavericks on a 3-year, $126 million deal. And I think Dallas was really the only team that was going to tolerate his antics, but also pay him the money that he wanted. And while he flirted with the LA Lakers and even the Phoenix Suns, those two teams just didn't have enough cap room, and I also just didn't think the fit would have worked either. So glad he's back in Dallas. I really wanted to see Dallas have a chance to re-sign him and remain competitive. Still have concerns for Dallas and their size. That duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving can be very dangerous. I think this year now they have a kind of a summer to get better in shape and also come into training camp, get some reps with these new players, because Dallas did have a pretty solid draft. So let's see if they make some adjustments, get some younger players in there. Also bringing back Seth Curry, I thought was a very solid move. And all in all, I think these moves are going to make some more positive changes, but we'll see what happens because, like I said, the West is very, very tough. The Cleveland Cavaliers have made a couple low-key moves that I wanted to talk about, but firstly, they were able to bring back Karis LeVert. I think he's their best wing defender. Very good player that has been in and out due to injuries, but when he's available, very good contributor to the Cavaliers. And then you have George Niang, who is a player with some size but a very capable shooter, can guard on the perimeter as well, so he brings in some defensive versatility. And then even Evan Mobley, who can get down on the block as he's known to be a power forward, but also guard smaller players out on the perimeter, so they have some additional versatility, with Jared Allen kind of manning the middle as that shot blocker. Overall, Cleveland's gotten a ton better defensively, and I think that's kind of been the difference. And hopefully that translates to more than just a first round exit last season, because Cleveland has to progress forward. The Bucks decide to run it back with Middleton and Lopez. Especially Lopez was getting a lot of buzz from Houston because they had a ton of cap room, and then even the LA Lakers in a potential return to Los Angeles, but he decided to stay with Giannis and the Bucks. I think this Bucks core of Middleton, Lopez, Giannis, and Drew Holiday, it's still a very troublesome foursome right there. It's just so many players that have a lot of size. They can defend as well. That is going to be the difference in this Western Conference. I think they're going to be very hungry because of what happened last season to that unexpected early first round exit to the Miami Heat. We'll see what happens in this upcoming season. I do think the core of this Milwaukee Bucks team maybe has 1 or 2 years left, because they're definitely getting older, and I only think that Boston and teams like Miami are just going to supersede them because they're younger and probably a little bit faster. But we'll see what happens. Definitely, it's going to be a very interesting year in Milwaukee. Extensions to Tyrese Halliburton, Desmond Bane, and LaMelo Ball all surpassed or equaled $200 million. And this is really what NBA free agency has been about, just astronomical deals, especially for players that you maybe didn't expect. I think I expected that kind of number from Tyrese Halliburton and LaMelo Ball because they're all-stars, but Desmond Bane was a little bit out of left field. I thought definitely an overpay. We'll see what happens where he continues to progress out in Memphis. But to talk about the two all-star guards, I love Tyrese Halliburton's game. He's been one of the best pass-first point guards that we've seen in the last year. And then LaMelo, he's been erratic in the last couple of years, but still a very effective player. I would like to see him fight off these injuries because durability seems to be an issue in the Ball family. Melo has been by far the best Ball in the family for sure, no pun intended. But the Hornets have some pieces, and let's see if they can build on that with Brandon Miller in tow. Pacers, I think, are making some nice quiet moves with Tyrese Halliburton's extension and bringing in Obi Toppin. Don't know if they can really move into that play-in tournament section, but we'll see. Definitely, I like what's happening in Indiana as well. Houston made some interesting moves. I did see that they had a ton of cap room coming into this offseason, but they didn't use it in the most wise fashion. To start, they had a big contract signing with Fred VanVleet, who, trust me, I am a huge fan of FVV. I think he's been phenomenal with the Toronto Raptors. I've seen him blossom from a fringe player that was on the edges of the rotation, even playing in the G League for a little bit, to becoming an all-star only a season or two ago. Now, the problem is that he is a 6-foot guard that's greatly undersized and that has physical limitations. He's a defensive liability to the bigger guards that we have in the NBA, and his efficiency isn't the best. So I think that's certainly an overpay, but I think that Houston is just desperate to get these younger players some veteran leadership that they truly need. I just didn't think that was the best way to go about it. And then the next contract that they brought up was a 4-year, $80 million deal to Dillon Brooks, who almost was running his mouth too much that he was on his way to Shanghai to play for the Sharks. Now, I don't think he's that bad. He's certainly an NBA talent, but I don't know if the poking the bear that he did last year in the first round against LeBron and the Lakers was worth it. It wasn't single-handedly the reason why the Grizzlies lost, but certainly triggered some extra dimension in LeBron James. Now, these maturity issues and this kind of toxic Grizzlies culture can come over to what's already been somewhat of a fractured locker room in Houston. We know that Silas could not really control these young kids, and it felt like a great deal of an AAU culture. But leadership has changed thanks to the Rockets bringing in Ime Udoka. I think he's a no-nonsense type of guy, so we'll definitely see fewer antics from Dillon Brooks and probably from the younger guys itself. So hopefully the thing for Houston now is just to go in the forward direction rather than back. They finished pretty much last place in the Western Conference, so the only way they can go is up, hopefully, this season. The Wizards bring back Kyle Kuzma, and I think that's a pretty nice move. I thought that they might let him walk, but now with him and Jordan Poole, those two guys jacking off 50 shots a game is going to be certainly entertaining, but I don't know if it's going to be winning basketball. While the fans like me, a Wisconsin season ticket holder, will be entertained, I think that's the best thing to do for the Wizards, is just to let them tank. They'll lose a ton of games this season. I don't know if that's going to translate to them winning the lottery, but nonetheless, it certainly boosts their odds, and they've gotten a bevy of picks and tradable contracts as well, accrue something to help accelerate this rebuild. But for right now, Kyle Kuzma and the pairing of him and Jordan Poole, I think, is going to be interesting to watch next season in DC. The Knicks have been quiet. They have been players for James Harden and even Damian Lillard, but I think the nice move that they made so far this year has been getting Dante DiVincenzo, and this reunites him with his former Villanova teammates in Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, and technically we can talk about him being reunited with Mikal Bridges, who is in a different New York borough, but still maybe they can all get together for a game night or something, a night on the town in New York City, that's for sure. Nonetheless, I really like this move because he brings defensive versatility. He is a bigger, stockier guard that we've seen, and he can make some three-pointers, and just another guard to help out with what they're trying to do in New York. I'm not sure if this moves the needle, but certainly helps them out in terms of toughness for New York. The LA Clippers and Russell Westbrook have agreed to a 2-year, $7.8 million deal, and I think this is great for Russ. I thought a return to the LA Clippers would have been the best thing for his career. He's great coming off the bench, leading that second unit, and they've been in talks with James Harden to bring him to LA. I think that reunion would be really cool. But in terms of Russ and what this means, he's now a role player. He is a bench player, and I think him transitioning to this is going to be best to prolong his career. Certainly is going to be a Hall of Famer. That's undeniable. In terms of prolonging his career, not being so stubborn, it's certainly humbling. There's this whole debate whether or not this is a pay cut or his value. I truly think that this is just his value at the end of the day. Unfortunately for Russ, it's just that he has limitations and he's not the same athletic guy that we're used to seeing out on the basketball court. While he has lost some athleticism, he's definitely gained some skill throughout the years, and him leading the second unit for the LA Clippers is definitely the best thing for the future of his career. So that's it for this episode of Spectator Sports. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Take a look at our Instagram and TikTok pages. For my Spotify listeners, give us a 5-star review, and take a look at our playlist for the clips from this episode. All links are in the description. So until next time, take care and be safe.